it's not just money. It's actually tied emotionally. I'm like, I have to do this if I want to hit these goals that are now in the core of me, right? Like, I want to do this for my wife. I want to do this for my family. I want to advance my family along, give them a better life. And so when you do that, it's like, you show up on the day to day, and even if you get off track, or even if, you have a bad day or something goes wrong, I can always go back to, it's not just the money that I'm doing this for. It's like, it's way deeper than that.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? We have a in-studio, kind of remote, talking lots coming at you. Eli and I picking up the sales talk. So, again, beginning of the year here, we're in Q1 2024. Not exactly sure when this episode will come out, because that's the magic of podcasting, right? We're putting some in the can here. But
Don't tell them our secrets, Todd.
Eli, we got to peel back the curtain and show them everything. We want to share, right? We want to share the whole deal, the whole journey. So, but we've been talking about sales specifically. We're still in, we refer to sort of as the DNA part of the discussion, like what makes up your sales DNA. We had some great talks the last couple of weeks that we'll recap. And dude, I'm pumped. I'm having so much fun with this. So welcome, Eli. How are you, brother?
Thank you, dude. I am amazing, brother. I'm amazing. It's Friday. Dude, it's like 60 degrees today in Pittsburgh.
Is it really?
And it's not raining. Yeah, it's somewhat sunny out. It's a beautiful day. So I'm pumped for this weekend. You know what that means? That means golf season is right around the corner.
It's gotta be.
I mean, it's still January, but it'll be a month.
February goes past, although it's a leap year this year, so we got one extra day of that crap. But it's it's almost golf season. When do you start golfing out there? Like, can you golf in March, or is it an April thing?
Yeah, March. It's March. Usually like early March, depending on what the weather looks like, right?
Okay.
So we'll see. They open it up for like walking, and I'll try to get out a couple times, and really inexpensive golf too, because like no one wants to go out when it's 60 degrees out.
Oh,
and you have to talk the course.
Well, 60 is not bad, but the 52 overcast, that's a diehard golfer for sure. But they don't have the carts out there because it's mud season still. Chew the damn thing up.
No one wants to walk the course, so I'm like, shoot, man, I'll walk the course. Good exercise.
Right. By the way, so far off topic, why not keep going down that way? Talking about walking, getting your steps in. I got the Whoop band. So I just want to say this episode brought to you by Whoop, eventually. But Eli turned me on to the Whoop band, and I just got one so I can start to track my activity a little bit more. The health, big priority for me, big goal this year, like it is every year.
And what do you think so far?
Of the Whoop band? Oh, it's sitting. It's on my counter. It just showed up yesterday, so I'm just getting back in town from a trip. Saw it there last night when I got home from the airport. I'm like, all right, here we go. Let's go. So I'll set it up today, and I'll give you a report on our next episode. How's that sound? But this segues well into one of the things we wanted to talk about, which is starting to set goals. So how does this tie into your DNA, right? As a salesperson, and let's take it back a bit and give everybody kind of a high level overview of what we've been talking about and the conversations you and I have a lot, because Eli really day to day runs our sales team. He's a great leader in that arena, and he's really studied so much and has learned so much over the last few years. We find ourselves talking about this stuff a ton, right? And for us, or for me, and a lot of the conversations we have, it's broken into 3 sections, especially if you're talking to somebody about going into sales, right? So it's your DNA, like what is in your DNA? Do you have that makeup? And that's what we're on right now. And then the next few podcasts, we'll be talking about, can you tell the story? Your communication, your listening, your creativity, all that part of it, that once you decide if you are made up to be a salesperson, can you start to learn or leverage those talents that you have to really tell the story? And then the third segment of this, and who knows when we'll get to it because we keep finding more things to talk about in each bucket, is closing the deal. So talking about what that process is like to literally close deals once you've created this opportunity, all this activity that you have. So I'm looking forward to it. But on the DNA piece, last episode that was just you and I, we talked about resiliency. We talked about grit, right? The foundation of someone, because you got to be a grinder to be good at sales. And watch that episode.
A lot of athletes. There's a lot of athletes that go into sales. I feel like, former athletes, maybe college athletes, and they already have that grit in them. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. A lot of that's transferable, or it's the same foundational aspect. And that's why we kind of call it DNA. We had Chad and Patrick on, the Boston boys, and we were talking about a hunter versus a farmer and that mindset, and and not so much that grit and resiliency plays into it, but, a little bit deeper dive into you. And that's just some of the stuff we'll get into today behaviorally. Which one are you better at? Which are you out there trying to make the big kills and then move on to the next one? Are you a little bit transactional? Are you super relationship driven and you love to mushroom it out, but you got a little bit of a fear going after the big elephants? And so, once you're in the seat, what makes sense for you? Which path, that hunter, that farmer? I thought that was a fun conversation. But today, so we wanted to start with goal setting because it's I don't know, that time of year, right? But it's a lot of goal setting is about mindset. It's about discipline. It's about follow-up. And, we're not just talking sales goals. We're going to talk kind of specifically from a sales management standpoint, setting goals and getting buy-in and how you sort of do that. But also your own personal goals and how you, I don't know exactly how I want to say it, but how you get dialed into it mentally. Like, are you a goal-driven person? Because some people aren't, and that's okay too, right? But if you're going to be in sales, you need to be able to check boxes and have it mean something, and and stay on that path for the entire year. So, when we talk about goal setting, Eli, you just went through the process with our entire sales team of establishing goals, getting buy-in, right? Because the company has certain revenue targets that we need to hit, but you want input as well. Tell me about that process. Like, how does that work? Or share with everybody how you do that individually with each salesperson.
Yeah. So, a lot of it is, you break it down with the relationship with that person, right? So I've got a great relationship with everyone on our sales team, and I have a true conversation with them about what is it, like, what do you want to do this year? First of all, like, what do you want this year to look like for you? And I'm not just talking financial goals, which, that's going to be a big piece of this. We'll get to that in a second here. But, we're talking, things outside of those financial goals too. Things that, hey, the payment group might be able to help with, might be able to help drive you with, things that I can push you towards. So, things like volunteering in your community, like that was a big thing. Those things really drive a lot of people to their core. And a lot of those things can play a part in what we do on a day-to-day and how I interact with somebody. And as soon as I understand from a management standpoint, as soon as I understand what their goals actually are, like, it usually goes way deeper, way beyond just money and just a financial piece. So understanding, like, all right, well, what is it that you actually want to achieve for your family this year? What is it that you actually want to achieve for yourself? And then we get to, of course, the material things. Do you want a new car? Do you want a new house? Are you trying to move somewhere? Trying to go on a nice vacation? But again, all these things boil down to, they boil down to usually a core fundamental or one of their values. Like, if somebody wants to go to Disney World with their family, that's going to cost quite a bit of money. I know we went to Disney World, you, me, and Brian, this past year, and I was shocked at how much we spent for just one evening going.
There for like 3 hours. Like,
seriously,
are we getting $40 an hour?
So it was absurd. So it was
money.
I would absolutely to get.
So the company, we've got goals, right? And so that needs to translate down. Here's the big number of what we need to do for the year, and then this is how we get there, right? And then that translates into. But I love what you're saying is you need to understand the why of the salesperson, like knowing how each person thinks, it operates, and like sort of what the tapes are that play in their head. Do you take that into consideration when you're sitting down and having a conversation about the goals and meshing the two, the company's goals with their personal goals, and how do you get to the end story there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, money's money, right? Like, It's one of those things that helps with all of those things, but like money on its own is, essentially meaningless. So it's like if you can attach that money to meaning, it's actually what I did for myself a few years ago. I wrote down exactly how much I wanted to make that year, and I allocated every single dollar to a specific spot. I wrote down exactly how much I wanted to give to my church. I wrote down exactly how much I was going to pay in taxes. Unfortunately, that was a tough one
Yeah.
to write down. I wrote down
You're real.
exactly how much, I wanted, how much the car was that I wanted to buy my wife and how much I wanted to have in savings in addition to that. And I just literally broke it down so that I knew exactly what, as some of the other guys on our team put, what your monthly nut is that you got to cover. But then I also put down like, what are the things that I truly want to get to and that I want to do beyond that. So now, that money that I am striving to make this year from a goal setting standpoint, it's not just money. It's actually tied emotionally. I'm like, I have to do this if I want to hit these goals that are now in the core of me, right? Like I want to do this for my wife. I want to do this for my family. I want to advance my family along, give them a better life, better quality of life. And so when you do that, it's like, you show up on the day to day, and even if you get off track, or even if, you have a bad day or something goes wrong, I can always go back to, it's not just the money that I'm doing this for. It's like, it's way deeper than that. The money is now allocated to an emotional tie to me. So it helps me get back on track too. So that's a great exercise to do, by the way, if anyone hasn't done that. Write down exactly how much.
That's awesome.
Literally allocate every single dollar.
Yeah, that's great. You attach it to meaning and you attach it to emotion. That's great. That's a great share, man. I think one of the greatest sales mentor I ever had this saying, and it was very true. And he thought a lot like that, but he would say, listen, money's not everything, but I'd put it right up there with oxygen. And the reason for that is because all these other things that you want to do, they take money. And some people just want the security, right? So understanding that, there's that, I saw a comedian that said, someone asked me what I'd do if they gave me $10 million. And I said, I'd keep it. Like, you always think it's attached to, I'm going to buy a new car, get a Lamborghini or something, or financial security and putting money in the bank and knowing that you're going to be set. A lot of people are wired that way. So going to the sales DNA and where it connects with goal setting, it's a belief system, right? And that's what a lot of what we have to figure out with folks to know if they're going to be a good salesperson, or once they're here, how we motivate them and keep them on track is what their belief system is, right? And that's where your blind spots come from, but also so much of the good that's in you. And I think goal setting, the way you just explained it, the way that you do it, is amazing, because you're getting to know what makes this person tick. Why do they want to make more money? Because it is all tied back to revenue goals. It has to be. It just has to be. You know what I mean? It's everybody can act like, in business, wow, we're just here to do this and do that. If you don't have any money, you can't do it. You can't do any of it. The end result is, we gave a lot away. We helped a lot of people. We helped folks achieve their dreams, but you got to start with revenue or with income. You just have to. Especially, when you're in sales. So, what would you say is a struggle when a salesperson is trying to put their goals together, or a couple things that you could share, because we can kind of talk through the solutions. Maybe not believing in themselves enough to put a big number down and then start to build that path. Do you find you have to push people sometimes to say, hey, you can do more than this, whether it's a conservative, or they don't believe in themselves, or they've never seen it done? Like, let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. No, a lot of people, especially when they worked at other companies, maybe they've been a salesperson elsewhere, they've made X amount of money. Let's call it $150,000 as a salesperson, right? And they've sold, $5 million in whatever service, right? Could be anything, roofing, paving, whatever. And maybe they just had a bad manager that, consistently pushed them down so that they wouldn't rise above that level of where, that manager was at, right? Unfortunately, you see that in some companies, nowadays. And, I really believe that, it's one of those things that you have to, I mean, even myself, like sometimes I look at my goals, I'm like, I wonder if I put like at the end of the year, I'm like, I wonder if I would have increased that goal if I would have actually done a lot more. And for me personally, I like to set goals that are so big, like get me really excited to get out of bed in the morning. Um, and you could talk about SMART goals. You could talk about breaking those into smaller milestones. And I think you should do that absolutely. But like when you have a giant goal, and for me personally, when you have a giant goal, or I have a giant goal and I get out of bed in the morning, I know that there's things that there's issues on a job, there's issues wherever, like that you run into issues all the time. It's just part of the process. And so if I have that giant goal that I'm trying to get to, that helps me push through those issues. And so when you look at that as like an individual salesperson, right? So you're setting goals, maybe you have a little bit of, what you call sometimes head trash, right? Like you've maybe been abused at a previous company or some your previous manager, like, pushed you down, didn't let you rise above, rise above their level. It's like, like, let's encourage, like, there's so much opportunity out there. Let's push the salespeople. Because I know that our team can do it. Like specifically our team right now, like I have no doubt that every single one of them can hit the goals that they have set and that,
absolutely,
about with them. I truly believe it. And I really believe that they'll be able to, do it again, doubled next year, and the opportunity's there. The, everything's there to help them make that happen. And so, just really encouraging them and showing them the path. Sometimes you just have to take and break down the numbers too. That's what we did this year,
Yeah, absolutely.
$10 million salesperson. Well, let's take that and break it down over a month, month to month. What does that actually look like? Right. So you're not just saying, oh, I'm just going to do 10 million bucks like that. That's a big number, right? As a salesperson, that's a big number. Well, if you take that and actually break that down over 12 months and figure out what kind of activity do I need to do on the day to day? What kind of activity do I need to do on the week to week? Now it's a more manageable number on the week to week, and you can actually see a clear path to that rather than just saying, oh, here's this giant goal, right? So, absolutely. I mean, the answer to your question is and I believe that our sales team can do it. And I truly believe if you have the DNA of a salesperson, the ability to think bigger, especially once you get around the right people, that's going to help you so much. Brian, I mean, I'm sure you can attest to this. Brian has been notorious for setting giant goals, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
All the time. Yeah. So
I love it. I love it too. But as far as tools are concerned, that what you were just talking about there, this is kind of sales management 101, right? Breaking it down. Say, all right, so you got to sell $5 million this year, and then breaking it all the way back to monthly, how many proposals versus your closing percentage versus your average job size. Like if you're not doing that, then you're not helping your sales team. You know what I mean? That's really just the basics. Getting the buy-in on that though, the input to say, because you could say to a salesperson, I need 10 million from you. And they can just walk out of your office and be like, well, the company did it to me again, or whatever it is. They're just unrealistic. You got to walk it all the way through. Breaking it down helps, right? But if you have a sales rep that, let's just, again, use round numbers. Let's say it's $10 million that the company really needs that position to sell. They think they can do 7. Breaking it down, helps. That's their input. They're not bought in, though, if you're saying it still needs to be 10. What does that look like between, let's say between the 7 and the 10, with what's between their ears, what they believe they can do, and some, some coaching that you could do, or some things aside from just laying it out that you can do to get them to really believe that they can get to that $10 million.
Sure. Yeah. I honestly, this past year, I asked some of the folks on our sales team, hey, what do you want to make this year? Like, that's the first question, right? And that kind of goes back to what we just talked about, right? So I won't recover that. But, what do you want to make this year? So we talked about that. And then we kind of back that into, all right, what does that look like from a profit number? What does that look like from a revenue number? And we figured out like, okay, maybe that number is 7, right? Maybe it's 7 million. We're trying to get them to 10.
Sure.
Like, okay. And I simply just asked them, like, what are your thoughts on getting to 10? Like, what? I think it's there. I genuinely do. Like, looking at all your opportunities, what do you think about getting to 10? Do you think that's possible for you? And I let them explain why or why not. And generally, the answer has been, oh, well, yeah, I guess it probably is. Sure. All right. Yeah. Well, let's work on that. And now what does that look like to you personally? So now here's the buy-in piece of it. What does your life look like if you sell an extra 3 million and get that completed?
There it is.
From a commission standpoint, what is your
Hold on, Eli, would you say you attach it to meaning and emotion?
you attach it to meaning and emotion?
Glad I'm taking notes, brother.
100%.
That's so good.
So
That is so good. And you're very good at that
conversation.
because you're genuine and you really care, and there's great other sales leaders out there like that, but there's a lot of them that aren't, that are just really pushing it on a spreadsheet. That's why you see so many salespeople that get disengaged. The company's just putting it on me and whatever. This makes all the difference in the world, the kind of conversations that you're having and understanding what motivates them and why they're motivated. So you kind of, you got to get the input, right? You got to be on the same page. We need 10, you think 7. Let's talk about it. Give me your input as to why. You lay out the plan, and then you get the buy-in on whatever you decide on, whatever it is you decide on, right? You got to get the buy-in. And I another note here, crystal clear clarity in what the plan is, what it looks like every month. The support, which is your role, right? So as we're going along, and Eli did a really wonderful job with this. I thought this was cool at our sales kickoff meeting about 3 weeks ago. Everybody put some big goals, not just monetary, but like things they wanted to do. And it was a really neat meeting because, like Eli said, it was about volunteering. It was about helping in their community, like just stuff that everybody has in them that they want to do. And they were asking the group to hold them accountable to making sure that they do it. And also, our sales goals and stuff hold each other accountable. And Eli just asked everybody, hey, do I have permission to push you? Because I want you to get there. So that's that, here's how I'm going to support you. We're in this together. We're both bought in. And then you tell them how you're going to walk lockstep with them, right? We're here to.
You want to know the answer?
Yes.
I'm sure you remember the answer too. One of our sales guys, he said, Eli, I would be really pissed off at you if you didn't push me.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I love that, bro. Yeah, let's go. Like we're in this together. Yeah.
No, and that's it. And that's what you're there as a leader to do, right? You make the plan, but then you don't just hand it to somebody else to execute. You make the plan, and then you get in the trenches and you fight with them, and you understand again what's going to keep people motivated, moving forward, and ultimately getting to that goal. So some of the sales DNA stuff, again, maybe it seems weird that we would have the goal setting under the sales DNA piece, but a lot of it is belief system. So it's like believing in yourself, but it's what you're taught early on as well that really kind of sticks with you. There's a lot of people that have, what was the other one we're going to talk about? Really, like money. They have trouble talking about
relationship to money.
Yeah, their relationship to money. Exactly. And that can come into, I can't think that big of a number for my own personal income because I'm only supposed to make up until here. My grandfather, my father, and now me, we only make this and we're happy with it. And we don't talk about it. We don't tell anybody else what we make. We don't ever ask anybody else how much money they have or what they, and they're just kind of wired into that. Well, tie that into a deal with a customer. They're not going to ask about a budget. They're going to let that customer walk all over you. They're never going to want to talk about how much money they have to spend, what the other contractor's charging, any of that. They're going to have trouble chasing the money because they think you don't talk, like all those sort of things. And I think that starts at goal setting. Is that fair to say?
100%. Oh yeah. I'm right there with you. I do think it starts with goal setting, and that whole, I have my notes here for what we were going to talk about. And as we're talking about goal setting, I'm like, this is essentially the conversation about your relationship to money. Like we had it separated as 2 different topics. I'm like, this is basically the same topic. I mean,
it is,
for the most part. I'm like, I think that goal setting is directly correlated to your relationship to money. And if you have a poor relationship to money, which unfortunately, in the United States, I think it's a very common thing, to have a poor relationship with money because 75%, almost 80% of families live paycheck to paycheck, right? And what is the average income? $60-something thousand in a household. So it's like, when you boil those numbers down, it's like most people are used to that. And most people have that belief system of, we don't talk about money. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about religion, like all those taboo topics, right? And when you can break out of that and become comfortable talking about money,
Yeah.
the whole goal, it directly correlates to the goal set, setting the proper goals. There's one thing that you shared, and I'd like for you to maybe elaborate on it, about how you have gotten in the past in your director of sales roles, how you've gotten some of your salespeople to talk about money and asking their friends.
Yeah.
I think-
Yeah.
yeah.
It might sound a little bit dumb. Get comfortable asking your friends what they make. And I know, like, for some people, that'll make the hair in the back of their neck stand up like, you're an asshole. I get it. But if you're in sales, you need to get really comfortable talking about big numbers and not having them affect you in any emotional way. Not having your brain shut down on you a little bit, being like, we don't do this, like, get out of your comfort zone and ask them. Say, what'd you make last year? Some people won't tell you, and that's okay too, and even explain to them the exercise you're doing if you feel that wonky about it. But like, it's just a number. You already know who they are. You already know how they live, right? You know what for the most part, what their morals are and most of their belief system is. So it's not like what they make is going to change your opinion of them in any way. So ask them and get comfortable with that. And then you're going to see like, oh, it's really not that big of a deal, because new salespeople, I struggle with that a lot. It's the unexpected number to some degree. When they're trying to sell $5,000 deals and jump up to selling $50,000 deals, and it's like, whoa, that's just too many zeros, and it blows their mind, and it's all that they can focus on. And you're like, dude, it's a number. It's just a number at the end of the day. Somebody's getting that money. Why should it not be you? Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Yeah. There's one thing that Brian taught me, said to me a couple of years ago too. I was going for a walk with my wife. We were just, walking around the neighborhood, right? All concrete sidewalks everywhere. And Brian, I was talking to him, we were in the office, and he goes, man, the difference between like abundance and like a broke mindset, he goes, step outside, go for a walk. Every step that you take is $12 a square foot. $12, $12, right? For concrete, right? It's like 12, $15, whatever. He goes, now go walk around the neighborhood, count all that up. Like, dude, the opportunity's out there. Like, if you don't think that there's an abundance of money out there, like, look at the numbers in the U.S. government. Look at the number. Like, there's some mind blowing numbers out there. You're like, it's endless. It's endless. There's so much abundance out there. You just have to look for the opportunity and be open. Here's the next thing: is be open to the opportunity on that, and be open to receiving an opportunity. And sometimes opportunities come, like a lot of people are like, oh, like I'm waiting for the right opportunity, right? Waiting for the right opportunity. It's like, well, sometimes those opportunities are covered in a lot of work, and you don't really see it until you start working on it. So just a little tidbit there. Some wisdom that Brian shared with me a few years ago that really kind of changed my perception of like, broke to abundance, right? Was like,
right,
dude, every step I'm taking on the sidewalk is $12, $12.
It's simply a mindset.
From a block, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars,
Yeah, dude, it really comes down to like, sort of like the why not me mindset. Why somebody else is doing this? So plenty of other people are doing this. Why the heck couldn't I? But it's self-limiting beliefs, and it's really that they call it, the psychologists call it the parent-child tape that's playing in the back of your mind all the time, of the little things you learn when you're 7 or 8 years old that kind of stuck with you, that either you don't do this or this is the way other people operate. So when you're talking to somebody and you need to ask for a budget, right? That's a great example or great case use here for what we're talking about. You're talking to a customer, you're trying to get a budget out of them, and then people that think it's inappropriate to talk about money might also have like sort of a higher need for approval or don't want to upset people because they might be transferring their belief system onto the customer and say, well, they're not going to tell me. They don't talk about money either. That's we're similar. Yeah. Nobody talks about money.
Yeah.
And that gets really, that can really derail your career if you can't get to that point where you can ask questions like that, right? So were you ever, when you were starting in sales, was that ever hard for you to ask a customer what they had to spend?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's something that I had to, I guess, grow out of as well and learn how to have those conversations. And it honestly, it really changed when like the story you just told me about what Brian said to me about $12 a square foot. That's really what kind of changed in my mind. And that was only 4 years ago, maybe, that he mentioned that to me. And I was like, huh, that
Okay.
makes sense. There is abundance out there. Maybe I should like, and the more that I've done this too, the more that I've asked, the better solutions that I've been able to bring to these customers. I've seen that. There's been times where I haven't asked, and there's been times that I've asked. Every time that I've asked and I've gotten a response of, hey, here's kind of the number we're trying to stay within. Like, okay, well now I can actually put something together for you that actually fits within the number. Like there's no point in me bringing a $500,000 number to you if in your mind you're thinking it's going to be 50,000 and if that's all you have to spend.
Absolutely.
I just
Yeah, we're never
I,
asking for the answers to the test, by the
I
way.
just wasted your time. No,
Yeah.
no,
That's
like
not what
I
the
just
salesperson isn't trying to shortcut and say, "How much?" Just, I mean, some are, shitty salespeople are, but you're not like, "How much is it? Just tell me, and I'll whatever it is, I'll match the price." We're trying to say, "I don't wanna create a solution for you here or a scope that's not gonna work if you got 50 grand and I'm gonna come back with a $500,000 job."
So I'll give you a good example of something that happened last year. So we have this local job here. It was right around $500,000. And, I simply asked the customer, I said, hey, do you guys have a budget? Is there a number that you're trying to stay within? Because, we could come up with a few different scopes here. I could just do some patching, get you by for the next couple of years, or I could do a full replacement. We could like completely overhaul this thing. And they didn't really know exactly what they wanted. They knew they wanted a newer parking lot, but didn't really know how it was going to fit in there. So they said, well, yeah, I guess we do. Like and they literally gave me the competitive bid. And I looked at the scope, I looked at the price, and I was like, okay, well, let's look at the scope first. Like the scope isn't going to work, and here's why. And I listed the ways why that I wouldn't recommend the scope. And quite frankly, we weren't going to bid the job if they were going to use that scope. And I looked at the price and I said, I'm like, let me go back and run the numbers. But I said, I can more likely than not match this price with a better scope. And I was able to back the numbers in to give them a way better scope, something that's going to last for, many, many, many more years than what they would have got. And I was actually able to get underneath that price. I ended up getting underneath that total number. So by me asking that question and figuring out what exactly they had to spend, what kind of they were looking for, I was able to give them a way better product. And I was also able to do it for under the price that they had outlined before. And it was a win-win-win for everyone. So simply by asking the question, it was like, well, it makes sense versus there's been scenarios where I've approached a conversation, haven't asked the question. And now I put out, a $500,000 bid to somebody and that's not at all what they're looking for. And now we got to go back and revise it and go back and forth. And now I just wasted the customer's time and I just wasted my time and I just wasted everyone else in between's time. And it's like, well, that's not efficient. And that's not what my customer is even looking for. So it's definitely something that you have to just do and learn, and you're going to be uncomfortable the first handful of times that you do it. You really are. It's not a comfortable question to ask, but just ask it. Like, hey, is there a budget that you guys are trying to stick within? And I always say too, like, you don't need to tell me if you don't want to, but if, the reason I'm asking is because, we could put together something that's 50,000 or we could put something together that's 500,000 and really just kind of depends on what you have to spend and what you're looking for in this project.
Nice, man. Yeah, that's right on. So, the takeaway, like tips and tools and takeaways here that we can, the 3 T's. We might have to patent that from the Talking Lot sales team here. Tips, tools, and takeaways.
Tricks. Tips, tools.
I don't like the word tricks. I throw that out there. Here's a trick, but then you're like, because we're salespeople, and everybody thinks salespeople are tricky to begin with, so you got to think
it's a trick anyone.
But what you're talking about, right, is awesome. That was a perfect story, man, and I think people can take a lot away from that. Sort of bracketing helps too. Like, can you share in round numbers around what you guys are looking to spend here? Without saying what is the price. What do you got? Give me the budget, because that's 2 totally different things. Where would you share with me in round numbers what you're looking to spend here? We're between 75,000 and 100,000. That I can absolutely work with, right? And usually you'll know, especially after you do a few projects with a customer, all right, they tend to, tell me the number on the high side. And then that kind of, because they're trying to guide you. especially if they like you as a contractor, they want to work with you. They're trying to give you as much information as possible. It almost takes the fun out of it if they give you the exact number, right? You're like, well, where's the sport in there? But yeah, doing that bracketing and share with me in round numbers and stuff like that. So, great tool, tip, takeaway. There it is. We're gonna put that thing in action. Awesome. All right, so we're coming up against it here. So much more to get into still in the DNA. I think we started to talk a little bit about need for approval, that need for and I think that gets into, and this will be for next time, tease one out for episode, 16, whatever the next one's going to be. Is it important? What's more important, for someone to like you or someone to trust you? And for you to like yourself, you to trust yourself as well is obviously a big, important part of it, and not need the customer to validate you to move through the sales process. And I don't know, a lot of other things that we can talk about, but let's talk next episode, Eli, because we gotta get running back to work here. But what are you looking forward to talking about on the next one?
Dude, I'm looking forward to seeing this face right here, Mr. Todd Durrell. That's what I'm looking forward to. In person.
Yeah, you got it, brother.
No, dude, that's it. I am looking forward to talking about that kind of that need for approval, and how to navigate that, because that can be, a good thing, a bad thing, depending on how you use it, right? So we've got a whole list of topics of DNA, like literally down to your core things that we are going to be talking about over the next handful of episodes. And I'm really looking forward to it, because this is a topic that I think both you and I absolutely love.
We do. Yeah. It's
more than anything.
It's fun. It's fun. It's definitely, it's my favorite thing to talk about. It really is. And we're dealing with it every day with ourselves, you're constantly trying to get better and work on your shortcomings as a salesperson and as a sales leader. And then with our team, everybody's got their own unique challenges, and it's cool. All right, Mr. Stower, this was a great one. I appreciate it, brother. I'm glad this is fun to work the way we've kind of worked this thing out with talking lots and co-hosting, and you're taking some, and we're talking about football, we're talking about sales, we're talking about trade shows, and
we're eating chicken wings.
A lot of different stuff going on, man. We're getting a lot of great feedback too. So if anybody has any topics you'd like us to cover within the sales realm, we'll be kind of hitting this thing for the next few weeks. Anyhow, send it over. Any questions that you want us to address, zip it through as a comment, or most of you guys know how to get a hold of us, but I'm sure you can DM through one of the social channels if you don't, and we'd love to hear it and address it. So thank you for watching again. Talking Lots here on the One Team Media YouTube channel, Pavement Group Podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much.